I'm a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, and I don't mean just that I enjoy the movies, although the movies are good. I love the books, and I've read Lord of the Rings many times. I used to read it once a year without fail. I don't quite do that anymore. I've read The Hobbit numerous times, and The Silmarillion as well, and each of the other books. And one of the amazing things about Tolkien, aside from what he did in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, is that he's actually had more books published since his death than most authors do in their lifetime. Of course, that is largely due to his son Christopher Tolkien, who has now passed away, who went through Tolkien's J.R.R., that is, went through his writings and put together manuscripts and edited unfinished works and have published those things. And I've read a number of them, and that really has been a blessing to those of us who are big Tolkien fans. So we're thankful for the work that Christopher Tolkien did on that. But the books keep coming, even with Christopher no longer with us. The one that I've most recently read is this one here, The Nature of Middle-earth. Now, if you're thinking, I love the stories about Middle-earth, I want to read another story about Middle-earth, well, this isn't the book for you. This is not what this is. There is no real narrative in here. It's not even like the other books where they take a section and kind of gathered together the various things that Tolkien wrote about that and give you a different presentation than what we might find in some of the other books. This is actually not even a collection of essays or anything by Tolkien. Really, these are just notes that have been typed out. And it is actually quite interesting because it will say in here what the notes originally were on, what was written. So, for example, I just opened this randomly. This is for the chapter Timescales and Rates of Growth. So it gives you a sense of what's in this book. And it says, this is a clear manuscript written, for the most part, in black nib pen on 6 sides of 3 unlined sheets that Tolkien lettered in red ballpoint pen. And so in some ways, this is a sneak peek into Tolkien's filing cabinet and the notes that he put together as he was devising his stories. And this is what really makes Tolkien so incredible as an author. It wasn't just enough for him to have a general plot line to follow and then fill it in with dialogue. He had to know all of the details in terms of the history and the science and the metaphysics and everything else that was going on. And that, of course, is the genealogies as well, who is related to who. All of those things had to be put together. And he went back and forth a lot of times on what that looked like. And this book will actually give you a sense of that. So if you're a Tolkien fan, I do recommend it. But you have to realize the kind of stuff that is in here. So some of the things that it talks about here is the aging of elves. And you might think, well, elves don't age. That's the point. They're immortal. And we kind of assume that maybe an elf gets to the age of about, say, 20, 25 in our years, and then just kind of continues on in that way. That's not the way Tolkien understood it. He actually understood them as having ages and stages in which they live. Because if you think about it, why wasn't the world overrun with elves? I mean, they're immortal. They could just keep having babies over and over and over and over again. But you find, actually, most elves didn't have that many children. Some of them didn't have any, because there's actually a certain stage in their life in which they have children. They don't do it beforehand, and most often they don't do it afterwards either. And so that's part of what's going on. Another thing interesting about the elves, it talks about reincarnation, because for Tolkien, Yes, elves wouldn't die of old age, but they do get killed, and there are a number of options for them. One is that they could just stay in the West, basically with maybe what we would call the angels. They could stay there, but there were also options for them to be reincarnated. So one of the best examples of that is Glorfindel, who is the elf who rescues Frodo when they're on their way to Rivendell, and it's not Arwen as it is in the movie, but Glorfindel, and he actually dies in the Silmarillion, but he comes back, and there was an option for reincarnation. There's all kinds of really interesting things that are in here, but you're not going to read this and just like devour it and read it in a night because the narrative is so amazing. This is something for real diehard Tolkien fans. If you want to know what Tolkien was thinking, how he was working out these details, how it all came together, you're going to find some interesting things here. But just being a fan of the movie and then going to this, that's going to be quite a jump. So if you love Tolkien and you really want more, you really want to know how he got to these things, I would recommend this, The Nature of Middle-earth, and it will be a good resource for you. I'm going to leave a link to an Amazon affiliate link for this book in the show notes for this video, and if you're interested, please click on that, and that helps me out in terms of making videos and blog posts and all the other things that I do. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Thank you, and please check out my website, stephenjbedard.com, and you'll notice that I have actually a blog on there called C.S. Lewis and Friends, which includes some things about Tolkien as well. Thank you, and God bless.